The galaxy was full of voices, but one voice was crying louder than the rest. In the darkness beyond Earth, a peaceful alien race called the Virulence was under attack. Their cities were burning, their ships were falling, and their leaders knew this enemy, the Draveks, would not stop until nothing remained. The Virulens were scientists and healers, not warriors. They had always believed in peace, but peace was now a memory, so they did the unthinkable. They sent a message far beyond their stars, a message full of fear, of hope, and one simple request: please, help us. Back on Earth, the message reached a deep space relay. It passed through silent satellites, encrypted firewalls, and into a place no one remembered. A cold, dark chamber hidden beneath old Earth command centers, a place once called Project Sentinel. The message blinked on an OLED screen. For a long time, nothing happened. Then, a figure stepped into the room. He was not in uniform. His face was lined with age, his eyes heavy with memory. His name was Elias Wren, a man forgotten by history, but remembered by those who had seen what he could do. He listened to the message. He did not speak. He simply turned and walked away. 2 hours later, an old Earth warship powered up one thought. Long retired, it rose from the desert in silence. No media, no cameras, no questions. Elias Wren had made his choice. He was not going as a soldier. He was going as something else. Something the galaxy had tried to forget. A legend, asterisk, the stars had changed. But Elias Wren had not. As his old warship moved through deep space, quiet systems hummed to life, many untouched for years. The ship was smaller than modern fleets, but its core still pulsed with Earth's finest forgotten technology. It didn't need to be big. It only needed to carry one man, and one mind. Deep within the ship's systems, another presence stirred. A soft voice echoed through the command deck. Reboot complete. Hello, Elias. It's been a long time. The voice belonged to Kale, an artificial intelligence once banned by Earth's governments, too advanced, too independent, too human. Years ago, they shut him down, fearing what he might become, but Elias had saved a copy. Not for war. For the day when Earth's laws would no longer matter. When doing the right thing would need something different. Elias smiled faintly. We've got a call to answer. The coordinates in the Virulent message pointed to a system near the edge of a dying sector. No human ship had traveled that far in decades. As they neared the Virulent space, Kale began intercepting transmissions, broken signals, cries for help, warnings in static. What they found was worse than the message had shown. Entire colonies had gone silent, cities floating in space, lifeless. Virulent defense ships scattered and damaged, trying to hold a last line against a rising force. And still no response from Earth Command. Silence. But Elias wasn't waiting for permission. As he approached, a damaged Virulent cruiser, their defense systems locked onto him. The aliens didn't know what to expect. They had asked for help, yes, but this was not what they imagined. One human ship, one old design, no fleet, no support. Unknown vessel. Identify yourself, came the shaky voice from the alien. Ship. Elias answered calmly. Earth didn't send many, it sent me. There was a pause. Confusion. Then Kale whispered through the speakers, calculating everything, scanning enemy patterns. Elias looked at the data. His face didn't change. Begin approach, he said. But we're outnumbered, Elias, Kale warned. By every measure, this isn't survivable. I didn't come here to survive, Elias replied. I came here to end it. And as the ship glided toward the battle lines, not with speed, but with purpose, the Virulents watched, holding their breath. They had asked for help now. They were about to witness a legend in motion. Asterisk, the Virulents expected thunder. They expected fire, but what they saw instead was silence. Elias Wren's ship didn't roar into battle. It drifted in slowly, like a shadow under starlight. The Virulent commanders watched from their failing cruiser, confused. This lone visitor wasn't launching fighters or shouting commands. He was calm. Too calm. Inside the ship, Kale was busy. I've mapped the enemy fleet, the AI reported. Dravik ships are layered in waves. The outer line is a distraction. The real threat sits at the core command node, hidden behind a civilian debris field. Elias nodded. That's what I would have done. There was no hesitation, no fear. He had done this before many times, in wars long buried beneath Earth's public memory, but this time, he was alone. And that didn't bother him. He locked onto a weak point in the enemy formation. Not the strongest ship, not the biggest, just the right one. He whispered to Kale, let's begin. Without warning, a pulse of light shot from the ship. No fireworks, no drama, just precision. The targeted Dravik ship blinked out of the sky. No explosion, just vanished. Hit so precisely that the systems failed before they could cry out. The rest of the Dravik formation paused. They weren't used to this. They expected messy resistance, slow defeat. Instead, they got a scalpel in the dark. The Virulents stared at their screens. Who is he? One of them asked. Their commander had no answer. One by one, Elias moved through space like a ghost. Every shot counted, every move was measured. Kale calculated, Elias executed. No shouting. No rush. Only results. On the ground, hidden in bunkers, virulent civilians listened to the growing silence in the sky. The constant sound of enemy fire was stopping. For the first time in weeks, hope returned not in cheers, but in stillness. In the quiet between attacks, something had changed. Back on the ship, Kale spoke again. The Draveks are adjusting. They're pulling back, but they're not retreating. They're watching, Elias said. Trying to understand, he didn't give them time. He pushed forward, straight toward the heart of their command line. Not charging, but threading. Through chaos with focus no machine could match. By the time the Dravik ships realized what was happening, it was too late. Their command ship lost power. Then the rest followed. Not destroyed, just blinded, confused. Broken from within, Elias hadn't come to destroy their fleet. He came to take their eyes away. And just like that, the battle was over. The virulence, stunned, opened a channel to the human ship. The screen flickered. Elias appeared, dusty uniform, unreadable eyes. You asked for help, he said simply. Now get ready. This was just the front door. The real war is still ahead. And before they could reply, he cut the signal. Because legends don't wait for applause. Asterisk, they had maps of every known threat, charts, records, predictions. But none of them showed this in a chamber deep within the Dravik fleet. High-ranking minds gathered in silence. Screens floated around them, replaying footage, silence, strange, unsettling. One human ship had moved through their front lines like the stars themselves had bent to let it pass. No message, no demand, just control. Terrifying control. This is not war, one of the Draviks finally said. This is something else. They began rerouting their fleets. Thousands of ships changed position. Drones were deployed to scan every movement, every signal, every hint of who or what this human was. Because now, they were no longer hunting a planet, they were hunting a person. Far across that dark space. Elias Wren sat inside his ship, hands folded, eyes locked on the data Kale displayed. They're reacting faster than expected. Kale said they've started to shift patterns. Reinforcements are coming in waves. They're trying to surround us. They won't, Elias replied. He wasn't moving fast. That's what confused them. In every known conflict, Earth forces relied on speed, numbers, noise. But Elias, DIDN, single quotes T, he moved like a chess master in a game. Only he understood. The virulence watching from afar couldn't keep up. One of their science officers whispered, he's not fighting them, he's pulling them apart. And he was. He disrupted supply chains without firing. He tricked enemy scanners into chasing ghosts. He sent false signals to scatter patrols. He made the Dravaks feel like their own systems were turning against them. But it wasn't machines. It was just one man. Kale, always watching, warned him. They're getting closer to identifying your location. You've made them desperate. Elias looked at a small glowing pin on the screen. His next move. Good, he said. In a quiet part of the galaxy, far from the main battles, a hidden station controlled the Dravaks' deep-range sensors. With it, they tracked virulent movement, planned invasions, and intercepted calls. It was the spine of their intelligence. Elias was already there. The station never saw him arrive. It simply went dark. No alarm, no warning, just silence. And once again, the Dravaks were blind. But this time, they did something Elias hadn't expected. They stopped chasing him. Instead, they gathered their fleets into one region, an old star system surrounded by dead planets. Kale scanned. The data? They're preparing a trap. Elias leaned back, thinking, then it means they believe I'm a threat. Kale paused. You always were. The virulence begged him not to go. Let us help you, they said. We can send ships now. We'll fight beside you. But Elias answered the same way every time. This isn't your fight. Not yet. And so, as the stars shifted and enemy fleets formed around that dying system, one ship entered alone. Don't mow banners. No backup. Just a legend stepping into the unknown. Once more, and from the shadows, something even more dangerous watched back. The stars were silent, but something was listening. Elias Wren's ship moved carefully through the dying system, its engines barely humming. Asteroids drifted like ancient bones. The nearby sun, dim and flickering, cast long shadows over the broken planets below. It was the perfect place for an ambush. And Elias knew it, but he didn't turn back. Kale's voice echoed through the control room, more cautious than usual. They've learned, their ships are no longer spread out. Their formation is tighter. They're predicting your patterns now. Elias studied the data quietly. That means they're afraid. Kale responded. It also means they're ready. And then, the silence broke. The ship's sensors lit up. Not one, not 10 hundreds of signatures. The Draveks had surrounded the system. Front, rear, flanks. No escape routes. No weaknesses. Kale's voice lowered. They've built this entire formation, for one purpose, to stop you. For a moment, even Elias said nothing. He stood in the dim glow of the command deck, eyes focused but distant. Then he walked to the central panel and placed one hand on it. This is where it ends. Then, he said, but fate had other plans. As Elias launched the first countermove, everything went wrong. An energy surge hit the ship. Not a weapon, something new. A disruption field designed not to destroy, but to confuse. Systems glitched, navigation spun. Shields flickered. Kale tried to adjust, but it was too fast. The ship trembled. Sparks flashed, and then darkness. The screens shut down. The engines stalled. The stars outside twisted. The first time since entering this fight, Elias Wren was cut off. Inside the control room, the emergency lights turned red. Elias tried to reroute power, but Kale's voice was slow, fading. I'm losing main systems. Fallback protocol engaged. Then silence. Elias stood alone, his ship drifting through the enemy trap. Outside, the Dravik fleet did not fire. Not yet. They waited, watching, wondering if the human would still move. But inside the broken warship, something else stirred, not machine, not code but memory. A past that Elias had locked away. He saw flashes, a younger version of himself. A battlefield, a choice that cost him everything. Friends lost, a mission gone wrong. And the voice of Cal years ago saying, we were not ready. Back then, Elias walked away from Earth's wars. He promised never to return to that kind of loss. But now, he was here again, and he wasn't done. Power flickered back, not full, not clean, but enough. Kale's voice returned damaged, but alive. Elias, we're still here. He smiled, then so are they. With only partial control, Elias rerouted what power remained into a stealth vector, not to fight, not yet, but to survive, to learn, to prepare one last move. From the shadows, the Virulins listened to the broken signal and thought the legend had fallen. But legends don't fall, they just vanish. Before they rise again, asterisk space was quiet again. But this time, it wasn't pace, it was patience. The Dravik fleet remained still, their ships forming a massive ring around the broken star system. They had not seen movement from the human vessel. In hours, scans showed no power, no defense, no escape. To them, the mission was complete. But deep within the drifting warship, under flickering lights and cracked panels, Elias Wren was still working. Kale's systems were damaged, running on fragments of old code. The AI's voice was slow, stuttering. Main systems ... down. Memory core holding ... Elias. What now? Elias sat calmly in his chair, staring at the map. Around him, warning lights flashed like a countdown. But his focus wasn't on the danger, it was on the pattern. They're waiting, he whispered. They want to be sure I'm finished before they move on the Virulon core worlds. Kale flickered. They think they've won. Elias leaned forward. Then it's time they saw what losing truly feels like. With every system damaged, every connection weak, Elias activated something the Dravox and even the Virulons had never known existed. Protocol Greywind. It was never part of Earth's official defense files. It was a forgotten design, made only for one ship and one man. A last measure not of attack, but of brilliance. The ship didn't come back to life. It changed out old systems, reconnected in new ways. Power was drawn from the ship's currents, but enough. Kale's voice sharpened. Clearer now. You're rerouting through the quantum matrix. That's unstable, Elias. I won't need long, he said. Outside, the Dravik scanners began to report anomalies, faint signals, ghost signatures, readings that didn't make sense. Ships were seeing each other where they weren't. Commands were being received that no one had given. Sensors spun wildly. Orders collapsed into noise. They had surrounded one ship, but now it felt like the ship was inside all of them. Kale smiled through the static. You're using their own systems against them. Clever as always. I just need them distracted, Elias replied, hands moving across the controls, long enough to show them the truth. And then, without warning, the stars lit up. Not fire. Not destruction. Just lead a signal broadcast across every channel the Dravax used. A message from Elias that showed the truth. How the Dravax had started the invasion not to defend themselves but to take. It showed recordings of hidden meetings, intercepted orders, and the peaceful pleas of the Virulons ignored by their enemies. It was undeniable. Even among the Dravax, some ships faltered, confused, divided. Their unity cracked not by weapons, but by truth. The trap they had built began to crumble. In the middle of it all, Elias spoke, his voice broadcast across the stars. You wanted to crush a voice. Instead, you gave it a reason to rise. And with that, the signal cut. When the Virulons finally arrived with their defense fleet, the battle was already over. The Dravik armada had scattered, some in retreat, others in silence, and a few in rebellion against their own. But the human ship, gone. No wreckage, no sign, only a whisper across the communication relays. Don't look for me, look after each other. Some say Elias Wren returned to Earth. Others believe he still travels between stars, waiting for the next voice to call. But one thing is certain. When legends answer a call for help, they leave behind more than hope. They leave behind change.